Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today, as I promised you last week, I'm going to talk about my new camera, which is this one. But before we get into the details about this, I'm going to talk to you about how I got my film photography gear this time. I previously owned a Nikon EM and various others, Nikon cameras and a bunch of other stuff. And now I decided to take a look again at one of those auctions where I buy stuff and sell stuff from. So what I typically do is I find a batch of photography gear, cameras, lenses and accessories and whatever, in one of these auctions, and I check out the value of these items, and I check if there is anything amongst those items that I can use for myself. I did that again, and bought a lot of gear. In fact, it was a huge box, two huge boxes, in fact, of gear. I sold a couple of items myself on the internet in a group where we can sell stuff, and the rest I sent up to a camera store in Finland, in Tampere, in Finland, and I've talked to them by email about the prices, but I didn't quite know, because I knew that some of this stuff was pretty beaten up. But having said that, the price what I got for these things were enough to buy for the auction, to buy for the postage up to Finland, and to pay for this camera. In a way that when everything was the pluses and minuses and all that, this has cost me nothing, absolutely nothing. And in fact, I also have two lenses, a 105 and a 24mm. I'll get back to those in just a minute. And by buying some other stuff on the internet, I got those, and then in fact a bunch of old film, which is expired, but you can still use expired film if you know how to do it. So this has cost me nothing, like nothing at all. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about this. This one lens I had beforehand, I've been using this for years. I'll get back to that in just a second. But let's dig into this. Let's look at this camera first. What it is, when it's from, and what it can do, and why I chose this one. And then let's look at the lenses after that. I have some notes here. I need to take them up here. So this camera is in fact pretty old. It's produced between 1978 and 1983. I can't tell you exactly when this one is made. There is a serial number, but I can't. I've tried to dig into it, but I can't find the exact year. So somewhere between that. So let's just say that this camera is 40 years old. The condition it was in, there's this sealing so that you don't get light leaks in on the film. They've been changed, and the shutter has been tested and adjusted. Plus the light meter has been checked and adjusted, and the switches for the lenses, which are not in these, but there could be some switches from the lenses, have been cleaned, and I got a certificate of that from Camera Store, so that's pretty nice. The camera is a Nikon FE. Nikon made two cameras, FM and FE. FM means manual, the M is manual, and E is electronic, and that's the only difference between the two. And that means that there is a built-in light meter in this one, and it does take a small battery here in the bottom, right there. And you cannot shoot with this camera without a battery except for one exposure setting, which is 1/125th of a second, 125th of a second. No, I'm sorry, a 19th of a second, M90 it says here. And that's, well, I wasn't thinking when I bought this. I wanted something manual. I wanted something that could, could be shot in manual, and I would like to have a built-in light meter. And that's all fine, but the electronic part, I didn't really use my mind, because if this breaks, I'm pretty much lost. I can pretty much just ditch this camera, because you can't buy any spare parts for this anymore, and you can't have it fixed. Having said that, it's a sturdy camera. It's built almost, well, it's all metal. The whole housing is metal all around. I don't think there's any plastic anywhere, really. So this can take a beating, and you can, yeah, I'm not afraid to do that. You can probably bang some nails in the wall with this one. But let's look at the buttons. I'm just to turn over here. If you look at the front first, you can't see anywhere that it's a Nikon FE. It only says here on the back, FE, it says here, those small letters. And of course there's no screen, because it's not a digital camera, so it's a film camera. This little switch here, if you turn that like that, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but if this lights, there's battery on the camera, and the light meter works. On top here, you have the setting for the ISO or ASA, but ISO, we'll just say that. So you can tell the camera which film it's in. This camera has in fact got exposure compensation plus minus up to 2 stops here. The shutter speeds are there. The winding for the film, I just wind it up. The shutter release button, and of course you can do some double exposures with if you take this one and then cock the shutter with this. You can make a double exposure. What else is there to say? Shutter speeds between 1000 and the fastest, and up to 8 seconds. But then it also do bulb, which is as long as you hold the shutter, and that could be with a shutter release. With a wired release. So that would be my proposition for that. And it also has here, if you look here, this sign saying auto. This camera can in fact shoot an aperture priority if you transfer the apertures to the camera. And that's pretty smart, in fact. So that's, yeah, you can use that or use fully manual. There's a nice light meter which can be seen in the viewfinder. I can't show you, which is just two arrows. If you align them, then you have the correct shutter. The light meter has a center weighted, it's not a weighter, it's a weighted way to measure. I think it's about, as far as I remember, it's 60% in the middle and then 40% of the rest of the image, so it's pretty balanced. And I've tested it with both a light meter and with an app on my phone, and it's kind of, well, it's pretty accurate, so I'm not afraid to just use that. And also meaning that I'm not afraid to use the aperture priority on this camera. That shouldn't be a problem. Here, the sync port for a flash, and of course you can put a flash up on here. The flash sync speed is 1/125th of a second on this camera. This is to take off the lenses. A self timer, and the DOF preview, the preview of the depth of field. I'll get back to that in just a minute because it's got another function as well. If we look in the bottom, battery, and this is the contacts for when you put a grip on. There's a battery grip, which is a motor drive basically, and this drives the motor over here and have the power here. So, and this is for when you open the camera, rewind the film here. So yeah, pretty nice. It's not very big. It's quite small for an SLR, but yeah, it's a nice package. It's nice to walk around with, and I've shot about, I think I'm on my 6th film or something. There's a film in, so I can't open it to show you. 5 or 6 films I've shot in this now, so quite nice. In terms of lenses, this is compatible from, if you take the AFD lenses, the lenses before the FSG lenses that are the latest lenses. But before that, the autofocus D lenses actually attaches to this camera. They fit here. Of course, without the autofocus, it is just manual focus lenses, but you can use them. So you can have lenses going from between your DSLR 6, for example, or some newer, some F6 or whatever you got of SLR cameras. So that's nice, and you can use them in fully manual mode. I'm just going to take a lens here. I'm sorry about the noise. Yeah, right. Stick it on, if I can. Oh dear, the camera, yeah, like that. The aperture here, and focusing, and yeah, you know how these things work, so there's nothing new here. But what's special about this is that, if I take this off again, I have this lens over here, which is a non-AI lens. They actually also fit on this camera. So what you have to do, and this is why I prefer this for the FE, for instance. If I push this little button here and I flicker this one, oh, I can't do that because the shutter is cut. Now I need to waste one shot. Sorry about that. I'm the one that's most sorry. So, if I flick that one up, this lens attaches to here. Now, there's one problem with this, and that is that when I turn the aperture ring, it doesn't show, and my light meter doesn't react to that. In order to see what the real exposure is, I need to press this depth of field button here, and that's, well, you just have to remember that and get used to that, and it's right there when you're holding the camera. It doesn't really matter. So that's the thing I need to get used to. So yeah, let's pack the camera away and talk lenses, and we might as well just start with this one. This is the 105 2.5 Nikon lens. Looks like this, with the aperture from 2.5 to f32 in fact. Steve McCurry's Afghan Girl was shot on a lens like this. It is sharp. It's a beast. I might do some reviews on these lenses on another time, but just to tell you that 105 is the longest for now. I do have a 70 to 200, but since there's no manual aperture control on that, it can only be shot at f2.8 on this camera. But yeah, if you want to do something funny, that's not impossible, and it is a sharp lens, so I could do it in theory. But 2.8 when it's sunny and only 1/1000th of a second on this camera, that would be a problem. 105. Next one is the one I've had for well, it's one of my oldest lenses really. I do think it's my oldest lens. for now. It's a Nikon Micro P Auto 3.5. It's a macro lens, also fully manual, and it's got a huge focus throw, which is quite annoying, really. It's a sharp lens, but of course it's at f3.5. It's not that sensible to light, so it might not be the best companion if you're shooting something in the night or indoors and stuff like that. I'm keeping it for now, but I might buy a decent 50mm for this camera. And it will probably be, excuse me, a D-series lens. I think it will be a D-series. And then we have the 24mm 2.8, which is also an AIS lens. One of the best Nikon has made as far as my research goes. I haven't tried and tested them all, so yeah. But it's a neat little package. Yeah, and yeah, I just put this paper away. So as you can see, this is a small package. This is not, well, yeah, I can just 24, 55, 105, and a full frame camera, because 35mm film is full frame. So I think that's pretty awesome. And why am I going to shoot film? Well, I don't know. I think I'll make a different video comparing the things. And I've also put on a project with my Z7, which is that camera over there, trying to emulate some medium format. And speaking of that, I'm going to bend down here. I've started shooting film again, as we've talked about. I'm going to use this at some point, and I'll get further into that, but this is just, well, basically a lunchbox. This is one of the simplest cameras ever, and I'll get back to that in a separate video. But I like the look of this of film, analog film photography. I like the look of these. Well, what's coming out of these cameras, I just love it. As I mentioned in the past video, or in the last video, I've had some issues with my scanning, but I've seemed to have managed to fix that. If you see the start of this video, there's all these books, and I put them on top of the negatives and I leave them there for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, and then they are so flat that I don't have the problem with the Newton rings anymore, so that's nice. So yeah, that's it. Feel free to ask any questions or do come with some comments or whatever. And you can, of course, as always, subscribe to the channel. That would be very much appreciated. And I would appreciate if you like this video, if you like it. And I will see you next week and see what we can come up with. Yeah, so see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.